This is the quilt that I'm going to show you how to make. To cut the squares, you're going to want to measure 12.5 inch by 12.5 inch squares and cut them. For the design on the quilt, I'm going to use an idea that I found on the Amish Circle Quilt ebook, which is instead of appliquing the design, you hand embroider it. I'm going to copy the design out of the overall Bill book. That's the design I'm going to be doing. So it's going to be similar to this, but just the outline. Once you have traced all of the pattern pieces, you're going to want to start with hand embroidering them. Of course, you're going to need the fabric, scissors, the 2 embroidery floss, some straight pins, a needle. I use a needle threader for embroidery floss just because it's easier. This marking pencil is actually white. We're going to use that for when we do the blue. This is kind of a makeshift embroidery hoop that I'm going to use to pull the fabric around to make it taut so it's easier to hand embroider. What you're going to want to do is go through the back, and you can see where the needle's coming up and you know where the thread's going to be with the double knot on the back. For the stitch, you're going to go, say about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch maybe, up. You're going to pull through, and then you're going to actually put the needle through about 1/8 inch right before where you put the actual first stitch in. So it's going to come through the center. It really doesn't matter, whatever distance feels most comfortable for you. Just try to keep it even as you're going around. And make sure that, since you can see the blue through on the background, so you want to try to keep it on the lines as much as possible. Right now I'm actually at this point right here, and I'm wanting to get to this point, but I don't want to cut across to have the line, but I'm going to use these little stitches as kind of a way to hold my thread as I go around. You want to pull the needle to the back, and you're going to take the thread, the embroidery floss, and if you use the entire strand like I do, there's going to be 6 pieces, so you just separate it 3 and 3. And then you just tie it like a shoelace. I've already actually cut this one, but just cross over, tie. I usually do it 3 times and it stays fine. And that's about it for that step. The next step we're going to do is to actually lay the fabric out, the squares out, in the order that we want them. Then I will be pinning the squares together with the front facing each other. And I'll do it by rows. So I'll have 4 groups of 3 blocks. Just start sewing. I'm just going to use one, which is the needle in the middle position, and it's going to just be a straight stitch. There's not actually any need for back stitching on this because you're going to stitch back over that same seam. For the next part, you're going to cut a solid piece for the back. I used the blue, and then you're going to layer a layer of quilt batting. Both of those you want to be about 2 inches on every side more than the quilt, because whenever you quilt it, the top part can shift a little bit, and so you want to give it a little extra room to shift. So what we're going to do is pin the top of this to all the layers. What we're going to use first is a quilting technique called stitch in the ditch. And as it sounds, you're going to just stitch in this ditch of the seam. Next step is going to be using bias tape, and I just got pre-made bias tape from the store. Bias tape is made by cutting the fabric on the bias, which is the 45-degree angle, and I have double fold, which is the most popular. You want to look at it, and one of the sides will be slightly longer, so that's going to go on the back, and you're just going to fold this around. You want to leave probably at least 5 inches, so that whenever you connect it with the other bias tape, because you have enough space to do that easily. And then you're going to want to just pin it down, so that's what I'm going to do right here, and then I will show you sewing of it. Okay, the trick for the corners is you're going to sew all the way to the edge, but you want to make sure that you don't go past the edge. You can cut the thread, and then you want to just make sure that you did get the binding all the way on the back, and you're going to kind of open it up and just push it flat across. And then you're just going to, I just used the needle to hold down where my spot was. I'm just going to pin down to make sure it stays in place. And I'm going to have the last corner, and I need to join this with this, and what we're going to want to do is pin this down so we know exactly where we want that angle to be at. Alright, and when I just marked my edge, I'm going to open it up, and then we're going to open this up, and final mark on this. I want to line the two marks up, and then we're going to sew diagonal, which is going to be from this corner to this corner. What I'm going to show you is how to do a different type of quilting. This is just if you want it to be more decorative. I'm actually not going to use it for the quilt, but you're going to need a free motion quilting foot. In the back of mine right here, I have a switch and I can put the feed dog down, which is right there. And that's really important when you're doing free motion quilting because otherwise your fabric's going to pull even though you have this presser foot. And basically the point of this presser foot is to hold the fabric down but still let it to where you can move. So even with the presser foot down, I can still move it any direction I want. And what I'm going to show you is basically loops. So the thing with free motion quilting is you always want to practice on a scrap fabric so you can kind of get the hang of it, and you want to go at a steady speed. Go down like this, go to a point and you're making a heart. You could also make a flower. But just with that one loop, you could do just loops if you wanted. There's a lot of things you could do with it. And here you go. You have just the basic loop, the leaf, the heart, and the flower.